This video is sponsored by GamerSupps. Stick around to the end of the video to hear a special offer they're making available through my channel. God of War Valhalla came out of nowhere. It was announced and here 5 days later. That's the huge benefit of a more digital gaming landscape. Shadow drops, which essentially was Valhalla. Santa Monica even lied to us saying Ragnarok would have no DLC and then make it free. You know God of War is Sony's golden goose for this reason alone. I don't normally cover DLCs in this channel as they don't often offer enough to chew on, and I'd be better just covering an entire another game. But not this, as you can see by the length of this video. God of War is among my favorite franchises, and after playing it, I knew I had to cover it. You guys will be proud of me. I didn't just play on easy, and I actually got good for this DLC. We open looking at a chair sitting in the water with Greek drapery. It's not completely submerged, representative of how Kratos' guilt and past isn't completely submerged in his psyche. This also sets up our bookend shots. Empty throne here, and later, we'll get to later. I was wondering how they were going to reset us and why it was its own standalone menu. I'm sure they considered having it be something baked into the main game, but with the nature of roguelites, it's best to keep it 100% separate. And it's not like Kratos isn't used to being powered down. It literally happens as often as he dies.
Back to basics then.
Ooh, gotta love that dissonant horn as Kratos' theme struggles to find its footing, ushering the uncertainty of this place in Kratos' mind with the position of God of War. Kratos reading Old Norse makes me giddy knowing that off-screen Atreus taught him everything he knows.
To be one's own master.
Master thyself.
A more poetic way of putting it, but yes.
I love this on so many levels. The Greeks were master poets and philosophers, so of course Mimir would lampshade Kratos, taking it in a more literary stride. Master thyself actually originates from Greece, being know thyself instead, inscribed on the temple of Apollo. I like to believe as both Tyr and Kratos' Valhalla working in tandem to place his maximum at the gates, priming Kratos for what is to come and about to experience. And more importantly, what he needs to accomplish in there. And it works for us as the player, as we must master this game to defeat Tyr. I'm going to personally believe Santa Monica made this a roguelite strictly because the gate to Valhalla is called Valgrind.
Not the sort of foes I expected to encounter here. Curious.
Absolutely. From all we've heard, this place should be nothing but Einherjar. The amount of extra work to transfer Ragnarok's base game into an entirely other genre for free is so commendable. Santa Monica did not need to go this hard for this expansion. It's so polished and clean, it almost feels like this was the original concept all along. And can we just talk about polish? Ragnarok released in a near perfect state, and so too does Valhalla. In an industry mired in undercooked releases, I think it's important to pay attention to when it's great. No one ever talks about the good stuff since it's expected and preferred. But everyone wants to mention the bad and when it's not going well. Consider this next time a friend of yours is complaining about a partner or what have you. Or just tell this to the entire r/relationship sub, please.
I am not avoiding her.
Brother, you've gone to bloody Valhalla to avoid her.
Boys would rather die than talk to a pretty girl.
It is not her I'm avoiding. I value Freya.
Kratos saying that is harder than Warner Brothers not milking a studio and IP for all it's worth. And don't you worry, we'll be covering the new Suicide Squad game, so make sure you subscribe to see when that releases. But alongside that, and the way he talks to Mimir, this is some of the best character growth I've ever played considering where we started in God of War 2018, or even if you want to go all the way back to God of War 2005.
I think she values you as well, in her way.
She finds me useful. It's not the same.
Is that really what you think?
Gosh, I love this. Anytime Kratos and Mimir were left alone, we would always get some great insight about Kratos. Valhalla gives us an entire expansion of just that. Hearing Kratos view himself just as a tool to Freya shows that though they've made up, he can't forgive himself for what he did to her. This is a smaller scale version of the guilt he harbors over what he did to Greece. Kratos finds it easier to shut down and be the lowest common denominator for someone to not repeat any mistakes. This is another layer of what makes the position of God of War so difficult to accept. Gotta love when a game throws impossible enemies at you. But like any game worth its salt that does this, you could push past this and get to the first story beat of viewing the throne. So you could theoretically do a no-death run in Valhalla. But good freaking luck.
We're back outside.
I love Kratos' confused ass eyes. Actually, most any emotion that's not anger is kind of funny out of him.
This entrance is secret. Who told you of this place?
Nailed to our door 3 days ago.
Oh, our door. These bachelors be living together still. It's kind of silly, but feels like it's this or Kratos having a dream to come here. I'll take letter.
You're thinking of going back in.
Would you join me?
Oh, don't let me intrude on your personal matter.
Damn, Freya's a little salty that Kratos didn't evolve her. Just that alone should show how much Freya values Kratos.
Unlike the two of you, I've never died.
That's an understatement and perfect reasoning why both can enter Valhalla without issue.
Valhalla draws from the memories of those who enter. In there, you're an open book.
Bear McCreary, people. This won't be the last time I mention him, just like the Ragnarok video. Check that one out after this one if you haven't. His Valhalla theme is regal and beautiful. The man doesn't miss.
How did you even get past the gate?
I forced it open.
With his bare hands.
He forced it open.
Would you expect any less? He's
God of War.
oh, sorry. Right.
Retired God of War.
He forced it open.
There's an easier
I love the shift in tone the music brings. Ragnarok and Valhalla both know how to balance tone and not sit in dreary or happy for too long.
Guess I'll let you think, then.
I still ship it, y'all. The first time we get Kratos' theme in its entirety during Valhalla is when Freya offers her support and letting Kratos figure himself out, and it warms my heart. It's not until Freya is behind him, his friends, that he's able to find his theme again and tackle whatever is ahead. So many little and big things went into the thought process of creating this roguelite. Getting to change our rages, shields, relics. Only way to make it even more interesting is to have to pick one weapon and then find our other ones while we're in there.
It's about the way you overcome them, how you demonstrate mastery of your own powers. But varying your approach will demonstrate to Valhalla the full mastery of your abilities.
Santa Monica tried their absolute best to diegetically tutorialize Valhalla and make all of the roguelite systems a part of the lore. And surprisingly, they freaking nailed every little bit of it. None of it feels forced or that it takes me out of the game. I feel like I gotta win this just for the grandiosity of it.
What better god of war could the realms ask for than the general who won Ragnarok?
This expansion's whole premise is getting Kratos to accept the position of God of War. What a perfect epilogue for Kratos. Now that he's shown that he can grow for the sake of his son, he's got one last thing to confront. We're finally coming full circle with his character.
I have done and will do my part to fight for peace, regardless of title, regardless of whether I sit in authority.
You know as well as I do there's power in words. Oaths. The people need to know you're committed to them and to yourself.
You might hear often that certain things are just a title, but like Mimir is saying, there is power in words. There's expectation when committed to something. There's a respect that comes along with holding such a title that is needed if he is to be taken seriously. I've also believed for a long time that titles are just titles and hold no weight as it's actions that speak, but not everything is that simple.
You do not know everything that I am.
That you were. You've told me of your past, and yes, much of it was horrible. But you've proven over and over again that you're not that man anymore.
This is a very interesting discussion regarding Kratos and considering redemption as a whole. Kratos committed inadvertent genocide on the Greek people. Sure, he only targeted gods, but anyone that got in his way also felt his wrath. Poseidon's princess, chief among them in God of War 3. Is there truly ever making amends for that? Even if you have changed? What is unforgivable? There's the easy ones, of course, and we all know those ones. When it comes to Kratos, though, as much as I love his character arc and redemption, there's still a part of me saying he doesn't deserve a second chance, and he believes that too. I love how complicated his character is. He's, of course, still redeemed in my eyes because, like, it's Kratos. I've known him since I was, like, 8 years old. Do you think he's worthy of redemption, that he has allowed this kindness from the Norse gods, and that he's achieved such a thing? Let me know down below the like button.
If there's an upside to this Valhalla madness, at least it's good to see you in action again.
Is Mimir just us? Smartest man alive knows exactly what we're thinking and keeps saying it.
You're already more your cheery self than I've seen in moons. Without Atreus or a fight in front of you, I wonder after your well-being.
Interesting. Without being the god of war or fighting the battle of raising a child, Kratos wasn't doing good. It's like Steve Rogers pretending he could live without a war. Though Kratos has changed, I don't think there is any shame in loving a good scrap. With all of Kratos' pent-up emotions, it's gotta be like therapy to rip a Wolver's front half out. Kratos' throne is almost exactly how it was in the OG game, down to the waves and the backrest. Santa Monica has almost exclusively worked on God of War for almost 20 years, and their love for the series shows in every little detail. I love that Valhalla allows us to play Drip of War. Getting to play around with any combination is pretty neat, as I've yet to see much of the armors in the base game. The different tablets before a run are what make this, of course, a roguelite, but also for possibly my favorite comfort game. Getting to do a run and knowing that no matter what happens in there, I'm at least progressing a little makes for a gameplay session that is almost completely bereft of frustration. Almost. But it has done for me what I imagine it's done for many of you, is open you up to the awesome new genre. Before even finishing Valhalla, I was already imagining how much fun Hades must be from the amazing press I've heard about it. If that's a game I should cover soon, let me know down below. I dig the little bonuses encouraging us to try out different gear alongside the labors, getting us to use everything at our disposal. I had all of Valhalla spoiled for me, so there were no surprises to be had, but I can imagine how each Greek aspect that came back was a moment worthy of cheering.
Why has your mind manifested them here, I wonder?
I don't know, Mimir, maybe because Kratos has become his own judge to deem if he is worthy to be God of War?
He was a god of Greece, and we did not part on good terms.
Kratos, that's putting it mildly. Helios' head did not part from his body on good terms.
A symbol can't be slain, destroyed, or ignored. The best measure is often to reclaim it, redefine it. Remind us it's not the throne, but the god who sits in it.
This goes even further beyond symbols in my mind, whether it be a name or a place of which negative things have happened. I always find it best to try and reclaim it and make it yours than let those in your past still haunt and take away from you more than they already have. Mimir is just full of little nuggets of wisdom, and I'm sure many of us have actually learned a lot from this Norse saga.
Can't muster up so much as hello for one of your most auspicious victims?
Hello, Helios.
See how much he's grown? He's even given proper greetings to the Greeks.
You can't hide in the shadows from a sun god.
You may have asked yourself, why Helios? Well, they couldn't do Ares, Zeus, Poseidon, Hades for obvious reasons. Hermes is just a fly from the ass of Zeus. Hera would be weird. Athena could have been a pretty cool pick, but the three best reasons I believe they went with Helios is that he absolutely was the one god who didn't mess with Kratos at all. He was telling Kratos to stay out of his fight with Perseus and was killed while defenseless. This guilt is a perfect breeding ground for drama. Like mentioned, this journey he is on is a light illuminating his past, and Helios is the personification of the sun. And he's a head that could be on Kratos' belt to ever presently taunt him. I love how Kratos' theme now takes on the instrumentation of the Greek music as he approaches.
Wasn't this the Chamber of Sacrifice? Where you let an Athenian soldier burn to a crisp just so you could get past the roof?
Another time Kratos killed an innocent that could have been avoided. It would have been very interesting if he was confronted with murdering Poseidon's princess, but Santa Monica's got to cherry pick what Kratos must atone for so we could still be on his side still. Her death was brutal. The room is different now. Instead of a gimmick of rocks to hold the cage up, which is super gamey and kind of strange for a temple, all things considered, we've just got streamlined platforms with combat trials. I would have preferred the room to be recreated one for one, but hey, I get it. It's still awesome to get a vague recreation. I love this, I love this, I love this. Essentially the first enemy you ever fight in God of War minus the plume. Would I prefer this moment to be treated with more weight? Absolutely. Him brandishing the weapon that Zeus used to betray him, that he killed Athena with and brought against Zeus in the final chapter, should weigh on Kratos heavily. I don't think he would just pick up the Blade of Olympus just because he's got the option to, without some kind of something, you know? I do love seeing it again, though, and this is just a DLC, and I don't want to be a begging chooser, so it's still cool. Plus, we get the crazy heightened red from God of War 3 with it.
You know, I could give you a hint, but I just feel like you wouldn't appreciate it.
God damn it. Santa Monica listens to their audience so well. This is totally poking at the little outrage of NPCs completing puzzles for us at the launch of Ragnarok.
You're really just going to incinerate me and see what happens? I swear, you haven't changed one solitary...
Brother?
Kratos resorts to what he knows here, trying once again to burn a victim. This isn't what Valhalla wants from Kratos, so it brings back Mimir to burn him as punishment. This is obviously to highlight that the Athenian soldier was also someone else's brother, who loved and cherished them. To remind us that the Athenian soldier was looking for Pandora's power for whatever reason, just like Kratos. To highlight Kratos' selfishness and cruelty. This will be reiterated later with the boat captain, who can't seem to escape God of War for some reason.
We will simply return to the gate.
I don't think so! I think you've broken how Valhalla works!
Kratos was unwilling to sacrifice someone to Valhalla to make amends for what he'd done at Pandora's temple, thus breaking it. It goes to show just how much Kratos truly values Mimir, as he knows logically that if they die, they just return to the gate. But logic and emotions don't always work at the same time. Sigrun does what Kratos didn't even think about, which was sacrificing herself to make progress. This act means that she will never reach Valhalla, showing to Kratos what he truly needs to do.
Brother, I beg you not to remember the exploding plants.
See what I'm saying? Mimir's just us.
Why don't we talk about that image of you in the shrine we keep seeing? But don't you think joining Freya's council could put you in a position to walk that path? To earn that path?
I think we all just assumed that was Kratos now as we finished God of War Ragnarok. Now coming to realize that the shrine was just prophecy changed and Valhalla is the journey to making it reality.
That would be a poor reason to accept. Ambition is poison.
You can really see Kratos' trauma speaking here. Ambition isn't inherently poisonous. I'll say Kratos' time with it doesn't give him a good experiential track record. Odin being ruled by ambition, Ares himself. It's fun to watch Kratos come up with every reason under the Helios he can to not accept the position of God of War.
Hello, me again.
I always look forward to this egghead coming back with each zipline ride.
If I must carry you, make yourself useful. Say what you see in battle.
Aye, aye, asshole. What will he choose?
I'll never get over how entertaining asshole Helios is, constantly patronizing and giving us great inspiration like,
Right side, you bastard! Behind you, idiot!
yeah, technically we've already fought these guys before in Norse myth, but these fat bellies hit different.
Maybe it only counts as a sacrifice if you give up someone you value.
This is the reason the word value was used when discussing Kratos and Freya's relationship, to illustrate that Kratos actually values himself. We saw how much he cared for his own life in the OG trilogy. It's a rather cute way to illustrate how far he's come. It's also Valhalla extracting recompense from Kratos.
But it was important you come here for your own reasons.
Then you're not an illusion.
Anyone that didn't explore the side content would probably be confused that the real Tyr is actually alive and doing stuff around the realms. I enjoy that Santa Monica doesn't hold any hands and just expect us to know. Makes the history these characters have more real.
Because for us, fighting occupies the body, while our minds work out the rest.
They're gods of war. Seems fitting a fight is what would give them clarity.
When Kratos can get the better of me, we'll know his mind has done the work.
That works both for the player and Kratos. The more we go through, the stronger we get, and the more that Kratos must face his past.
Oh, don't pretend to be interested in my romantic life, brother.
I am interested, and you are evading the question.
These two are so cute. Kratos asking about Mir's last date. The DLC could have just been these two talking, and I would have been satisfied. I wish we got a bit more of the enemies from the north side, and maybe even a couple of Greek bosses for Kratos to face. Not to be confused with the Greek enemies, we'll get to those, but even with that said, it's quite amazing how perfectly God of War Ragnarok slots itself into a roguelite. The Yggdrasil doors connecting everything, Valhalla being the perfect location to set such a genre. And let's dive into that a bit, because I don't think you completely understand how perfect it is. Valhalla is a place of eternal battle, so to place an endless genre here was such an inspired choice. They could have made this a short epilogue of traveling through Valhalla linearly, but instead baked the multiple runs into Kratos finding himself. So from both a gameplay and thematic perspective, there was really no other genre than a roguelite to tell this story as well as they do. The tier fights are pretty damn good, each one of them, ramping up in difficulty naturally, but always feeling just out of reach. He isn't as mind-bendingly hard as the Valkyries or the Berserkers, but he's his own welcome challenge. Especially since he caps off the end of each run, even getting to him is reward enough. I played on Courage difficulty, with a couple runs at Master until I realized I've gotta get this video out eventually. And Courage felt like the perfect difficulty to play at if you want a nice 7 to 10 hour experience to see the final cutscene. I'm actually gonna restart and do a Master only playthrough once I finish writing the script, which is a testament to how much fun the gameplay is, as I rarely revisit games after covering them anymore because of how spread thin I am for time. But this game got me.
A man at war with himself places a deficit upon his focus. He is impatient, emotional, easily surprised.
Damn, Tyr, did you really have to call all of us gamers out like that? Maybe I was a little pissed off when I died at the first of Valhalla's Chosen, and it made me a little sloppy.
Such fury, such control.
Oh, I love that even Tyr notices that. This was the lesson Kratos had to teach Atreus last game, and it makes me giddy once again seeing someone recognize our main man. You know what? That's bull!
Use my own spells against me.
What? Dude could just catch Kratos' punch? It really reminds me of Brock. It is the nature of a thing that matters, not its form. Tyr isn't ripped like Kratos, and he speaks softly, kind of a gentle giant. He's the complete opposite of Kratos visually, but his nature is just that of Kratos, both physically and the journeys they've been on. It's lovely to see Kratos pick up Tyr and have it be the real God of War this time. And reading this, canonically, Tyr is that dude. Sure, his fights don't offer much spectacle, but that's by design. It's a sparring match where Tyr is testing Kratos, not the Olympic death of Zeus. I'm glad Tyr is getting his reputation back after Odin defiled it.
There's something here I must see through.
And what is that exactly?
Process.
Men would rather go through Valhalla, kill hundreds of dudes, and fight his brother in arms than go to therapy. Actually, if therapy was like this, I'm sure I'd go back. The short theme is so peaceful and beautiful. I enjoy after each bombastic run of fighting and dealing with Kratos' past that we get to come back here and just relax and reflect. The art style here is very reminiscent of the one we saw in the opening of God of War 3. I like the internal consistency that this is just how Greece shows its history. It's so funny to think when 2018 came out, there was such a big conversation around if it was a reboot or not. How naive we were.
Well, if I had to guess, probably to make you feel like the piece of shit you are.
Is he necessary?
Kratos can't even stomach listening to Helios pester him.
You seem capable.
To the mortals of these realms, I am an ancient myth, long out of mind. The days I could hope to unify these realms are long past. But they see you as the hero of Ragnarok.
So, recency bias is the only reason Kratos is the new God of War, huh?
So I heard myself tell her that I didn't think I could give her what she needed.
Now, I am mad at you.
Pile on, brother. I deserve it.
Oh, Kratos is mad that Mimir doesn't see how great he is, even without a body. Kratos is learning to accept his past of destroying an entire pantheon, and Mimir is struggling with not having a penis. Okay, yeah, I know it's way deeper than that, but come on, it's funny. Hey, we finally get a troll battle in Ragnarok, and this is actually the one we murked on the lift to find Tyr.
But is that anything to build a future on? I mean, look at me, brother. Be practical.
If anyone else disparaged you as you disparaged yourself, I would wish to strike them with an axe.
Kratos' best wingman.
She deserves the best.
Then why should she not deserve the smartest man alive?
Sometimes I think you've come too far, brother.
Kratos straight up giving relationship advice. This is truly the character arc we needed. Funny, because Kratos' track record for keeping women isn't great.
Odin always looked outside himself for answers. But Valhalla only reveals its secrets to those who do the work of looking within.
I kind of love that. No one can offer you true clarity if you're not willing to put in the work yourself and understand that first. Odin never was a man of self-reflect. He was a very external character. He cared about tangible things that could be known. He cared about control and wanted shortcuts. Wanted to look inside a crack to find out what comes after, instead of making peace with the fact that we'll never know and living in the now. I believe a big step to inner peace, happiness, and understanding is embracing our mortality. Once you can understand that in your bones, then I think some progress could be made. That's at least my personal experience.
I mean, any of Zeus's brood are bound to be garbage, present company by no means excluded. But Ares made a real art out of being vicious and depraved.
That was such a mouthy way of talking trash about Kratos.
I see you still use the blades he gave you. Can you really say you regret a decision and still keep benefiting from the trappings of that decision? I'm not sure, I'm just asking.
Helios is truly just Kratos' inner voice being externalized for our sake. This question, I'm sure, crosses him all the time. But I love this question because it brings me back to the topic of reclamation. When Kratos picked up the blades once more, it wasn't in service to Ares, or in pursuit of vengeance, but in the pursuit of saving his son, love, and once again, when he used them to start Ragnarok and Surtur, the blades 100% have found their redemption alongside Kratos. Yes, the return of the Legionary Captain and the Sirens. The idea of bringing in Greek assets to Ragnarok is just so cool. Seeing the architecture, getting the classic God of War themes and music back, it really makes me long for remakes of the first two games. I've heard some speculation that this is actually just a litmus test to see if there's still interest in the Greek side of things. And obviously, of course, there is. And this is just them starting to build assets for it now for the remake. We'll have to see. And we get the classic finisher of the Siren. Ooh, looks like Tyr is starting to play Drip of War now, too.
You're not the only one with weapons from far-off lands, you know.
Oh, now that's cool. We already knew of other cultures existing and Tyr traveling among them all, but seeing him bring in weapons from the Aztec, Japanese, and Egyptian gets me really excited for what's next. An Atreus spin-off Miles Morales style, where he explores other cultures? Probably not, but we'll see. Tyr's second fight brings a whole host of new moves. The first one was just a shield and spear. Tyr using the first weapon a Spartan is trained on against Kratos at the start is a cute way of easing him into this. Now the gloves are off and everything is flying at us. Like the use of blood magic with the Aztec Maqualio. It is so cool with the history of the Aztecs with blood sacrifices and all that.
I was ambitious, proud. I could not accept defeat. I crave power.
So interesting, Santa Monica encourages us to use the blaze during this dialogue. Using the weapon while discussing the deal that brought upon everything is just so cool.
What would have happened if you didn't stop it?
Our lands would have been overrun. Our people killed, violated.
People your army was sworn to protect.
The recontextualization of Kratos' choice does miles of work to make not just Kratos now, but Kratos then an even deeper character. Yes, Kratos admits he wanted power and glory, but we know how much he loves Sparta. It's not a leap to have this now be a part of his history. I love that Tyr's forcing Kratos to find any silver lining in the pact, no matter how small, to give Kratos greater perspective. I am all about silver linings. If you ask my girlfriend, she hates me because of this. Sometimes a choice feels like the wrong one until you look at the bigger picture.
You would excuse my actions.
Excusing them is not the exercise, Kratos. Only accepting them. Accepting that you acted based on what you knew then, not on what was to come. Your motivation and their consequences are far more complicated than you let yourself believe.
And acceptance is a huge part of living a fulfilling life. Like that one super embarrassing thing you did back in high school that still haunts you to this day when you're trying to sleep at night? You gotta own that. Yeah, this is what I wanted more of, but I understand it's a free DLC and they already had done so freaking much. Of the returning enemies, these guys are actually the ones that surprised me the most. I can still see their intro in my brain of them laughing at us in God of War 1. And then the Minotaurs, easily the most difficult of the returning enemies. These guys went from exciting orb farms when seeing them to an actual threat. I would always have to lean forward and try a bit harder every time they'd show up. I do wish the grab brought back the classic double blades down the throat though, but I'm still satisfied. Over the course of this DLC, I seriously fell in love with the spear, and the build I would always go for was a high stun build with rage burst on grabs. So much fun being unkillable with the perfect rune that makes rage deplete instead of health. What build did you guys generally go for?
Bringing a darkness over everything you could see. Darkness come, you occur.
And as Kratos is confronting the feeling of plunging his homeland into darkness, he and the player are also forced to fight in the darkness, just as the Greek peoples.
I fell to my death and was saved by Helios.
Chain of Olympus did a lot for Helios being a bigger figurehead in this DLC. They're pretty damn good PSP games, and I'm seriously considering covering them at this point.
And what I released.
Pretty much turned all the gods crazy. Thanks again for that.
Quiet Head.
Yeah, Head is back on the menu, boys.
He was just a man, afraid for his life. Attacked and swallowed by a monster he had no hope of defeating. But the Hydra was just an animal. I showed him what a true monster looked like.
And that's why mentions of the boat captain have been present in every single God of War game. Funny, back in the day we cheered during that scene as Kratos was hardcore and had a cool one-liner to kick off our gory action game. Now we see how far the developers and Kratos have come, and to have them still acknowledge this is just breathtaking.
Your old master. He had you make his wife fall in love with another.
It's also truly breathtaking how much story is jam-packed into this. It took me about 8 hours to complete Valhalla, and it seemed like there was still quite a lot of unexplored dialogue between Kratos, Mimir, Tyr. Even the Valkyries at the shore have story time. This to me is required playing if you're a God of War fan and want to be caught up on all the story. Even if you don't like the genre, just slap that boy on easy and enjoy the ride. Tyr's final fight has him throwing everything in the kitchen sink at us. He mixes together all of his previous moves to give us the second greatest challenge for Kratos in this game. The first, soon to come. But this is to say, once again, Tyr being the final boss of these runs makes them so much fun. I love the times I would have a bad run and finally make it to Tyr with no cooldowns, rage, or health, and just be like, alright, I guess I'm gonna try. I'm already here. Yeah, I gotta cover Hades. That little beat of Kratos assuring himself before confronting himself. That little bit of direction just shows how human he is and how far he's come. I cannot imagine the bomb drop of seeing young Kratos if you didn't know. For them to look directly at each other and have Kratos speak to himself is something I didn't see coming in this DLC. And it just screams of fan service done right, especially because we get young Kratos as a playable skin. It's easy to forget the Rage Monster in God of War 3 is this same guy. To see Kratos on the throne and him now in the same shot starkly reminds us that these are the same guy. It seems almost unbelievable. that we don't want to believe it, but it is true. It almost is a visceral feeling that it ignites in me that Kratos himself right now must be feeling.
And Owen said I chase redemption that I know I can never deserve. What does that make me? God of fools. A god of hope.
There it is, people. It still gives me goosebumps seeing Kratos understand and become the god of hope. And he brings us back to the question of if he could ever deserve redemption. He knows he can't, but still strives for it anyway. That's what makes him the perfect god of hope. Instead of becoming what he once was because there is no hope of redemption, he becomes the arbiter of it in spite of that. No better person would understand hope more than Kratos, as his entire life post-Greece has been fueled by it. Hope that he can live a life again. Hope that he can love again. Hope that his son won't be like him. Hope that he can be the father Atreus deserves. Everything he does is fueled by it.
You chose! I chose.
For a moment, Kratos is speaking to the OG as if it's a different person. Sometimes separation like that could be helpful, and everyone has been telling him that he's not that man anymore. But he still needs to accept his past, take up ownership of those actions, which makes the next decision the perfect way to own up and make up for what he's done.
You are cruel and arrogant and selfish. But you are more than that.
God, Christopher Judge, people. He wanted to cook so much harder in 2018, especially in the reclamation of the Blade scene, but with where Kratos was at, Corey had to reel him back some. But now in Valhalla, this is the most vulnerable we will ever see Kratos in. Oh my god, Christopher Judge is just so freaking good.
You have always been more than what others saw.
Man, such a simple thing. When we're told so many times what we are, we start to believe it.
You are more than that.
As Kratos finally proclaims for the last time, and for the first time believes that he's more than his past, his old God of War theme breaks away to give room for his new God of Hope theme, finally shedding and recontextualizing what the chair means. Tyr had told Kratos that it's not the chair that has power of meaning, it's up to the man sitting upon it to give it such. This is heard beautifully through the music, the writing, the direction, everything. And when we finally see the chair again, it's broken down, disheveled almost. A much more humble seat that Kratos can now rebuild in his own way, but still has the red fleece of Greece on it. His past is still a part of him and always will be, but he's finally free to build a new future. This brought me straight to tears and almost gets me again seeing it writing this. Between Bear's score and the reaction on Kratos' face as he reclaims his old throne and recontextualizes it, it is the end of a character arc that has spanned almost 20 years. With Kratos where he's at now, this would be the perfect time to put him to rest. I don't know what doesn't happen, but he's come full circle and placed himself in service, not only as God of War, but God of Hope. I can't imagine what this moment must be like for Santa Monica, creating one of the most quality, cohesive, longest character arcs that hits so hard in gaming history. It's hard to think of another character like Kratos, and the pride they must feel for him and what they've accomplished is probably insurmountable.
Did you find what you needed?
That smile. That damn smile.
What now?
Now, I believe I would like to sit here for a while.
And oh, the smile from Vermeer too. These two are just brothers. This is what truly makes it feel like the end for Kratos. The last two games, we got credits that didn't break the one-shot camera, but now we fade to complete black in credits for the first time. It truly feels like the one actual time the shot was broken canonically and signals to me that this is the end of an era. And end of an era, exactly what it feels like. I feel like I've almost grown up with Kratos. Memory really only starts around 4, at least I think so, and I started playing these games when I was around 8. So for most of my life, Kratos has been a character I've loved and been following. To finally see him come full circle and accept his past, become God of War and Hope, was something I thought I'd never see. let alone expect it to affect me so much. I seriously had happy tears streaming down my face as he sat down. I originally wasn't going to cover Valhalla, but after the many requests I got in the comments and editor Sean recommended me to do it, I caved, and boy am I so freaking grateful I did. I thought just watching the cutscenes online would be enough, but experiencing Valhalla is another thing entirely. Even if you know what happens or have seen it, it needs to be experienced. I'm telling you to experience it. This is driven mostly from the cyclical gameplay of the roguelite. As discussed previously, the multiple runs, getting stronger and stronger as we progress, is integral in how the story hits. We are in the trenches with Kratos, unpacking all of his trauma and misdeeds. We're building our own history inside of Valhalla from the gameplay side. That one boss that we got stuck on, or enemy that's a struggle. Shared struggle with Kratos is what makes Valhalla's story all the better. I'm unsure of who decided for this to be a roguelite, but it was a beautiful, perfect decision on all levels of production. Between this and The Last of Us 2's roguelite mode, I'm interested to see if this will be adopted by other studios. Will it be like the mid-2010s where every game had a multiplayer? Now it's an endless roguelite instead? And if it is, I'll welcome it. The genre can really fit into anything if you tailor it properly. I want to thank you guys, Sean and Santa Monica, for this exposure to the genre, as it has catapulted to among my favorites. Knowing how integral the roguelite genre and story is for Hades, you know that's coming soon. And speaking of that, the story of Valhalla. There was so much more here to chew on than I covered in this video. Mimir is also experiencing and starting to come to terms with his past actions in Valhalla. All of the Valkyrie stories, updates on the realms that's building out the world. Then add on backstory of Tyr, learning more about Odin. There's so much going on in Valhalla. For it to be a DLC was literally a Christmas present from Santa Monica. They did not need to go this hard on adding so much lore to an already jam-packed offering that was Ragnarok. Chief among them, that was finishing a character arc that we thought was already done. I spoke much about Kratos' journey in Valhalla throughout the length of this video, so I don't want to focus on that here. What I do want to highlight is how adept the writers over at Santa Monica are. At this point, anything they put out, I'm going to play. No exception. The goodwill they have with me is going to be hard to tarnish, because Valhalla is the perfect epilogue for Kratos, and Ragnarok as a whole. With the end of this epilogue feeling like the end of Kratos, it makes me wonder where God of War is going to go next. Santa Monica has almost worked exclusively on Kratos for the last 20 years. It's hard to see them doing anything that doesn't have God of War in the title. It's almost impossible that this is the end of Kratos' story, but maybe it is, and we've got Atreus to look to create our future games. I don't know if Loki has the star power to carry a God of War game, as his character was only as interesting as his relationship with Kratos. I'd be happy to be proven wrong, but I don't see it. And the idea of jumping to another mythology is probably the path that they will go. I don't see why Kratos would do that now with how much work it took him to accept office in Norse myth, but chances are he will take after Tyr and visit other realms to help them with their troubles. And maybe he becomes like a mythology Jesus. He's certainly resurrected enough to qualify. God of War Valhalla is a freaking treat. Already the best game that I've played this year, and I'm expecting it to stay there for a while. Santa Monica has proven that they are the powerhouse studio over at Sony. Creating a DLC that shifts genre, adds an indie game's length of gameplay and story, all for the cost of nothing if you already own Ragnarok. This is a franchise I cannot recommend enough to anyone that likes action games, and here's me truly hoping for remakes for God of War 1 and 2. There's no way to play them locally on PS4 or PS5, and I bet with how much Valhalla speaks to the OG trilogy, they're going to want to have their whole series playable on modern hardware. No one wants to dig out their PS3 to play the collections, or even worse, stream it. What was your experience with Valhalla? You could tell that I love the absolute crap out of it, and I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know down below, and as always, drive the speed limit, drink some water, and love one another. Pizza, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the video, and before we get to the award, I want to take a sec to talk about Gamersubs. Who needs soda or coffee when you've got this fantastic tasting, zero sugar, nootropic full, caffeine, or non-caffeinated drink that is super cost efficient? My partner makes it every morning before work and cutely calls it her gamer juice. But don't get confused, this isn't juice. Those are loaded with sugars. Just some water is all you need and you're set. There are tons of flavors to choose from and a lot of fun different shaker cups with the best blender I've ever seen. No more blender balls here. I seriously drink this every time I'm working on these videos, and it is such a treat. So get 10% off when you use code GamingWins at checkout. Links in the description.